Hello and welcome to Truth versus Hype. FDI in retail may have been put on hold, but it's triggered a fierce debate with wildly opposing claims. This is somewhat ironic, given that every argument that is made for and against it can be tested against the experience of Indian big retail. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll take a hard look at 7 myths surrounding big retail in India, from whether it helps farmers, to whether it'll bring down prices, to whether big retail has any future at all in the Indian context. When India's first modern retail stores opened for business starting 15 years ago, they triggered breathless headlines. But today, organized retail is only a tiny fragment of the retail market, and most big players are struggling to break even. Reliance, the biggest player in modern retail, has posted a net loss of over 40 crore rupees last year. As for Big Bazaar, the next largest chain, its parent company has debt on its books of over 4,000 crores. The Shoppers Stop chain of stores posted a net loss of 1.5 crores this past year. Aditya Birla Retail, with its chain of more grocery stores, is still loss-making. Some, like Subhiksha, which had at one time over 1,500 stores, has shut down altogether. And India's oldest modern retail chain, Spencer's, has posted almost 200 crores of losses this financial year.
I think the policy, the way it was framed, was a win-win-win policy.
Which is why India is one of the few countries where Indian big retailers actually want their foreign rivals to come in. They claim it will bring in more funds.
The economy is going through a different phase. You can't just raise equity today in these markets. For me, I add up 2.5 million square foot every year. We have a capital outlay of more than 1,200, 1,300 crores. Capital is scarce.
Experts say this is an indirect way of saying the global big boys will buy out some of the struggling Indian companies.
I think clearly India, when they come in, they will look for partners, as you've seen.
As you already have.
As we already have. While the cash and carry, as we call it, that model, 100% FD is allowed, they still chose most of them. If you see Tesco, if you see our partners, and if you see Carrefour, they're looking for it. And most other global, they will look for Indian partners.
But even if they do partner or buy out Indian retailers, can the Walmarts and the Carrefours do better? Some say they can, because they're only experienced in retail, unlike Indian companies like Reliance and Birla's who don't have that experience. But others argue that there are some challenges unique to the Indian market, which will apply to all players, regardless of nationality or experience.
The single biggest challenge for any big box retailer or any retailer of any size and scale is how do you find affordable real estate for retailing operations. Most parts of India just don't have enough space to start with, and whatever limited real estate is available, the pricing of that makes the business very tough to make any money out of.
By initial estimates, we hope...
And so is the government's figure of foreign retailers waiting to invest $600 billion somewhat unrealistic.
To use a cliche, the silence would be deafening. You know, that's what I would say. As far as this so-called rush of retailers and investors from other parts of the world is concerned, if you just look into the overall FDI record of India, whichever sectors we have opened up for major investment from overseas, our infrastructure sector has been open for investment for quite some time. Our power sector has been open for investment for quite some time. We haven't exactly seen a stampede of investors into India because merely allowing them to invest in India is just a starting point.
The loudest, most vocal opponents of FDI in retail are small traders who say they will go bust. They staged similar violent protests when the first Indian retail chains opened. There's no comprehensive study so far that maps the impact on small retailers after the entry of big retail. We did a straw poll of our own. NDTV correspondents in 4 major cities talked to local dukandars if their business was impacted after the entry of a big corporate retailer in their neighborhood, and found them largely unruffled.
कोई ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है, बराबरी चल रहा है हमारा तो बिजनेस, जैसे हमारे कस्टमर बने हुए हैं, हम बढ़िया सौदा देते हैं तो वो हमारे पास आते हैं।
काम नहीं हो रहा, वो ओपन कर रहे हैं, हम ओपन कर रहे हैं, कुछ नहीं फर्क पड़ता हम लोग।
जितना पहले होता था उतना ही अभी भी है। कोई नुकसान नहीं हो रहा।
कोई नुकसान नहीं।
कि रेगुलर ग्राहक भी क्या उधर गए?
कुछ परसेंट गए, ज़्यादा नहीं हुए, ऐसे होगा तो जाते।
कुछ जाना चाहते हो जाते हैं, जो हमारा परमानेंट ग्राहक हमारे पास ही आएगा वो।
ரொம்ப லாபத்தை குறைச்சி 10-15% கிடைக்கும், ஏதோ ஒரு 5% 6% குறைச்சி 10% அளவில் வைக்கும்।
आपके धंधे पे कुछ इम्पैक्ट हो गया उसका?
पहला स्टार्ट में अभी कुछ नहीं हुआ, अभी अपने सब चलता है,
कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, तो आपका धंधा वैसे ही अच्छा चल रहा है?
जैसा था वैसे चल रहा है।
रेगुलर कस्टमर अभी रिलायंस जा रहे हैं क्या?
हाँ थोड़े बहुत जाते हैं।
Reliance and more or less not affected. Won't affect. Very big. 100% it won't affect. Very small way they have affected.
आता regular customer तो आते हैं।
The option of buying today.
This week, NDTV's Vikram Chaudhary filed a report from Ludhiana, favorite of organized retailers because they can easily source fruits and vegetables from Punjab's well-organized farming sector. He reports that 4 years ago there were more than 24 retail outlet chains here, but several have shut down. Meanwhile, the local kiranas have been upgraded.
की फैसिलिटीज हमें ज़्यादा, जैसे घर के पास हमें ये पड़ता है, मॉल्स हमें काफ़ी दूर पड़ जाते हैं। यहाँ पर फैसिलिटीज़ भी हैं, बेनिफिट्स भी हैं, डिस्काउंट्स भी हैं, इसलिए लेडीज़ ज़्यादा प्रेफर करती हैं। सर्विस भी अच्छी है, सब कुछ मिल जाता है यहाँ पर जो हमें चाहिए।
Quite apart from anecdotal evidence, if any empirical proof is needed of the innovativeness and resilience of the small trader, it's in the government's own figures, which finds that between 2005 and 2009, organized retail has actually dipped from 27% down to 15%, while unorganized retail has maintained a steady growth rate of 15%, which calls into question both the government's logic of the glowing prospects of big retail in India, as well as the logic of small traders who claim they're going to be wiped out of business.
NDTV's cricket app, Android and iPhone. Fastest scorecard, special analysis, and much more. Download free. ndtv.com/apps.